Soon
No.
on on Spotify. It really just is what you just talked about, so we can maybe touch on that a little bit. Um,
Okay.
Hold on. I just sent it to you in Telegram. All right, looks like that we are live on. Let me just check our channels.
Tune. Sounds like another Belgian Dutch person.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, absolutely, dude. Spot
My
on.
I had a dude for my master's whose name was Tune. He was from Flanders.
I couldn't figure out how to pronounce his name until he actually just said, "Hey, man, Toon." I was like, "All right, cool."
Yeah, that's how my buddy spells it. Toon. Tune.
That's funny.
He used to just swear in Flemish all the time. Godverdomme. Like that's how they say God damn it, apparently. He would just say that like all the time. Godverdomme. Anyways, yeah, are we live? I think we're live.
We're live on Twitter. I don't know if we're live on Substack, so you gotta give me a minute to find our feed.
I gotta go on Twitter. I got
Oh, there we go. We
the
got oh well, look at that. We have 14 people, 15 people already joined. All right. So then, all right,
there we
well,
go.
Henry, Scully, hi from Australia. What's up, Scully from Australia?
What up,
What's up?
everybody?
Oh, we're gonna call him JP. Jupe. All right. We're gonna call it JP. What up, dude? I can't pronounce his name. He's the Belgian guy, remember?
Tune.
No, not Toon. Toon. Joran. He was the Belgian guy with the
Okay.
Dutch name.
Yeah. Well,
That
A Belgian guy with a Dutch name. That Belgians are Dutch. At least half of them are.
well, I don't I think he might argue with you on that because he did last time. So we're not going to get into geopolitical warfare right now. Let's just wait for a couple other people to join really quick. See who's coming
Yeah.
in here. All right, we have about our normal crew on Substack. We have our normal crew on Twitter, and I don't know if anybody's watching on Facebook because I don't care. I'm sorry, not Facebook. Um, YouTube.
I was
Let's see here.
learning
All right.
I was talking with this woman this morning, uh, as I grabbed some food here. Um, there was a like women in Bitcoin brunch. And anyways, I was speaking to the lady and she was like a new crypto investor in a sense. She said, well, not new, but she said, I came here because nobody in my circle knows about Bitcoin. I need to educate myself. I have nobody to talk to about it. Um, but she said that she learns everything about Bitcoin on YouTube. And so I thought that was really interesting that
Yeah, that sucks.
where
Sucks
where
for
where
her.
sure.
I
Yeah,
see.
she
I
needs
see
to
a
be on.
product.
I told her she needs to get on Substack and be on Daily
Yeah,
Bitcoin News.
I
But
think she needs to just focus on Andreas Antonopoulos, read a couple of books from him, and then call it a day. YouTube is not the place to be, but maybe that's a product that we start. Well, anyway, we'll start this live because people are sitting there. Lawrence from Alberta. All right. So what's up, everybody? Matt here. We have Kyle here. Kyle, Daily Crypto News editor. Kyle is in Vegas. He has just interviewed SFV Bank and Hive Mining. We're just talking about, as you see, somebody that was in Women in Crypto, and she doesn't know anything about crypto, so she went to Bitcoin conference to learn about Bitcoin and crypto. Again, maybe not the best place to do it, but she's there. And
yeah,
we're gonna talk about all kinds of stuff today, from Michael Saylor's comment about not wanting anybody to see his proof of reserves, even though he's buying, apparently, allegedly, because there's no proof of reserves, 580,000 Bitcoin. Um, and and yeah, Kyle, where do you want to start? All right, first of all, here's where we're gonna start, Kyle. I'm gonna tell you where we're gonna start.
yeah. You tell me.
What's the dilly? What does it look like? What's the vibes? Tell me about it.
Um. Well,
Where are you?
I'm in a booth in Las Vegas at the Venetian Hotel or the Venetian um, casino resort place um, at the Bitcoin 2025 conference. And, uh, Yeah, what I would say is, so I just interviewed Aiden, president and CEO of Hive Mining, and I was speaking to their marketing and comms guy before talking to the president of the company, not president of the country. But he said that he felt extremely bullish and that already was a conference that had really great vibes, and he could tell that it was going to be better than Nashville last year. I didn't attend the conference in Nashville last year, but yeah, it seems like people are kind of initially pretty bullish. I think part of that is because of price action. We had an all-time high last week. But at the same time, I spoke to Aiden, the CEO and president of Hive, and something I asked him was, we're about I forget exactly, but we're about just under a year from the last halving, and usually what you see is major price action around this time on the timestamp. And I know recently on one of our live streams, you, Matt, even said that this cycle is starting to mirror previous cycles, and that's exactly what Iden said. He said, "Look, what we're expecting is to see um, Bitcoin at least hit 160K by the end of the summer." Um, and that you're going to see this the demand uptick from the halving. Um, he said that they're going to be looking at mining up to 10 Bitcoin a day on their mining rigs. Um, they don't mine in the United States; they mine in Sweden, Montreal, Canada, and interestingly enough, Paraguay. They are developing a mining rig on the largest hydraulic dam in the Western Hemisphere, which
It's
I
the way to
didn't
do
know
it.
this, but it's based out of Paraguay, I think on the Paraná River out there. Um, but they're doing it near Iguazu Falls, which is one of the largest waterfalls in the world. I've actually been there. Really cool. It puts out more water per hour than Niagara Falls puts out in a day. Like the volume of water coming out of Iguazu Falls is just insane. And so
Wait,
these guys are
that doesn't even make sense.
it's a like three-tiered waterfall where each level is bigger than Niagara Falls. So
Wow.
it's like three waterfalls in one. And
Wow.
so the amount of water that it puts out in an hour is more than Niagara Falls. That's what I remember hearing when I was there, is that the
Wow, if that's
volume of
true, that's
water on that.
amazing. That's crazy.
Yeah. And so like the I'm gonna have to like look back on this interview that I've recorded, because the guy Iden was just throwing out all sorts of numbers. Hash rate here, we're developing, boom, we're increasing by 5x, blah blah blah. It was all a lot of numbers going over my head because we were talking really fast. But yeah, they're expecting to significantly increase their mining capacity because of what they're going to do out in Paraguay. Um,
So really quick, I just
anyways,
want to jump in and tell everybody that this is kind of like what I've been saying this for the past couple weeks, actually for months, is that we see your the person you just talked to. What was his name?
Iden.
Aiden. So Aiden said,
Mhm.
he said he's predicting a 160 top Bitcoin in this cycle, and it's pretty much mirroring. And then during the live yesterday, in my car, in the car ride, cars and crypto, what I said is the last halving we saw a 3.5x from the previous halving, which was 20K, well, roughly around 20K, a little bit below 19.7 or 19.8, depending on where you look. And then we went up to 69K, right? So about 3.5x. Before that, we had a monster 20x. Before that, just call it, we were like from like $1 to $1,000. So, but we have what you see over time is we have diminishing all-time highs just because the market cap's getting so big, and it's really hard to move $1 trillion into Bitcoin to pump the price. And trust me, you don't need to move $1 trillion to pump it. A couple 100 billion at one time will absolutely create a demand and then surge the price up to Bitcoin until it figures out what's going on and creates an equilibrium. but you're gonna
Hmm.
see, but you're gonna see that the Bitcoin price probably, my prediction is going to be under the 3.5x from the previous all-time high. So the previous all-time high was, just call it 69, was called 70 for easy math. 3x from there is going to be I'm sorry, $210,000. We're going to be below that. So that's why I'm giving you the anywhere from 140, 150 to 180 mark. If it goes higher than that, we are Super Bowl melt
Yeah,
your face parabolic moves.
he literally said 160. That's like their measurement by the end of the summer. So um, yeah, again, as to your point, like it's very much mimicking previous cycles. Um, and I don't know. I don't think we're going to see that kind of parabolic rip your tits off that you just said. But yeah, there's just a lot of bullish signals on what's happening. It will be very interesting to see, um, yeah, how these things play out over the summer.
So our friend Jurin is going to bed. I don't know how to say his name, but he says come to where he says Bruges, Bruges, B
I've
R
been, I've
U
been,
G G S E S. They
I
say
was
it.
just in Bruges in January.
Well,
Literally,
you got to
I
go
was
back
there.
now. Apparently,
Bruges is a
he
very,
said
very cool city.
Flanders.
Yeah, Flanders is incredible. I stayed
Okay.
a month. I stayed a month in Haarlem in the Netherlands, and I took a couple trips over to Belgium. I spent a few days in Brussels. I actually went like Brussels. Like we keep talking about this, but again, like Brussels is one of my favorite cities in the world. I literally flew there on my birthday, um, this past year, December 29th, because I wanted to drink Belgian beer for my birthday.
Oh wait, that's right. We have the same birthday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, December 29th.
Yeah,
That's crazy. Yeah, not many people have December 29th birthdays. Well, all right, bro.
there we go. I didn't realize that.
All right, all right. So, yeah, that's crazy. Do we? I feel that we talked about this, but I just
Yeah, I
forgot.
think
That's
when we were in person, yeah, when we met in SoCal,
yeah,
we
that's
definitely talked
wild.
about it.
Anyway,
Yeah.
okay. So tell us about some of these people that you met. Give me a skinny on FV Bank.
FV Bank, I interviewed Miles, their CEO. I'm blanking on his surname. Um, he's actually somebody that will be really interesting to have on for a live stream in the future because he was involved in like fintech payments from the very beginning. So when we started the conversation, he was telling me all about stuff that he was doing in like the early 90s to the mid to late 90s about like cross-border payments and stuff. Um, and how basically he was they were like the first company in the world to be doing stablecoin payments, and he got a cease and desist letter from the U.S. government to stop that, and that's what motivated him and his partner to build FV Bank, and start to do that. Um, and so, like, it's actually something that I personally want to check out and like be like, wow, I need to be doing my banking with this because like you can send them stable coins and they'll just deposit it into your bank. Like it seems like it's a really, really cool futuristic bank. Um, they'll yeah, they'll let you deposit stable coins and then like send out euros, right? To somebody. So it's he said I asked him like sell me on like the user acquisition, like why if I'm a somebody who has my fiat, why should I use FV Bank? And he said where basically like the future of the finance is going to be moving this direction. Um, and that if you want to be in the future and have your assets and things in an environment that will be um, already adapted for where this stuff is going, then that's like the product to use. And something I think the main takeaway from that conversation I had with him though was, and this is something that Adam and I have been talking a lot about on Trends with Benefits, is the idea of, and we've even talked about it here, but the idea of like mergers and acquisitions, right? This idea of like, oh, Ripple just tried to buy, Circle, or you're starting to see, traditional finance take a look at decentralized finance and on-chain finance. But what he said, Miles from FV Bank, is he said what's actually going to happen and what he predicts is not that traditional finance co-ops and acquires decentralized products. It's going to be the other way around because these major banks are not solvent and that they don't have the cash to acquire them. But all these crypto companies and decentralized companies are flush with cash. Think of Uniswap, or even think of exchanges, Binance, Gemini, um, uh, Coinbase. They all have they're all sitting on major assets of cash, or at least they have a bunch of Bitcoin. And this was one of the other caveats that he said. He said one of the big future products that he can predict in the future is um, loans and borrowing against Bitcoin. So if you're a major exchange, borrow against that Bitcoin, buy somebody else. So
Well,
buy
just to jump in there to
small
talk about
regional banks.
borrowing against Bitcoin. I mean, this did happen already, and so we did have Black. Wait. I'm blanking on the names. Well, Celsius, obviously.
Silicon Valley
BlockFi.
Bank. Yeah,
You know,
we spoke about this. I spoke about this with Miles about like how these banks are not solvent. And they're in precarious situations.
but these aren't banks. We already had this when it was a decentralized finance situation. We had, like I said,
Hmm.
Celsius and BlockFi and all these other ones, and they became insolvent. So, and I know that we have traditional finance, Cantor Fitzgerald. They're going to be looking at collateral Bitcoin loans, and they want to do that. And of course, Howard Lutnick is the is in the Trump administration. So we have so those already happened. So and those happened and they didn't work well. So my question to him, and hopefully we get him on for a live, is why will you? Yes, you're flush with cash. Yes, you can buy these institutions. Yes, you can do all that stuff. But what's going to make it work this time?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Okay.
Um, but what I would think from speaking with him, what I would think his impression would say it be, or somebody in his position, the reason it will work is because of the regulatory changes coming, and that's kind of another part of the conversation that we had, and part of the conversation I had with Iden from Hive was just basically like, "Hey, dude, you're mining in everywhere but the United States. Seems like you're on multiple continents, and you're uh, well, at least you're mining in North America, but not the United States, right? What's stopping you from that? Like, what's stopping you from coming domestically in the United States? Um, yeah, regulatory. He's like, we just need these frameworks. He's like, there's no reason why in the future we wouldn't be able to, um, like, because it all comes down to, for them it's math, right? This is kind of what he said too. He's like, we're just going to make calculations and where we can get the best hash prices for the like electrical output that we're creating in order to produce the most Bitcoin that we can. If that's in Paraguay on the Iguazu Falls at the Paraná River, great. If it's
Right.
in Quebec or Ontario on the St. Lawrence waterways, right? If it's there, it was funny. He was telling me, he's like, the two towns that we mine in, the one in Quebec and the one in Sweden, both their names mean waterfall in the local languages, right? So, anyways, they're looking for this type of power. And another question I asked him, like, and something that I've been seeing a lot too, is Ethereum's proof of stake a mistake? Right? What about staying on a proof of work consensus mechanism process has allowed like innovation in sustainable Bitcoin mining and Bitcoin proof of work. That sort of demand is creating it, where Ethereum just isn't going to do that. There's no innovation there. And so that was one thing about Hive, was the guy was like, we're the most sustainable Bitcoin miner in the world. All of our energy is green energy and we're producing it sustainably. Um, and so the way he explained it too about like energy output of like um if you're producing, if there's a proof of work, like there's no energy stealing, right? Where Ethereum is in some ways like proof of stake is just creating it out of thin air, where the economy of money, sound money, um, engineering of economics, it was interesting to hear his perspective on that.
Well, I would love to have him on and do a live, which we should probably plan that because I do have a lot of questions. The first one is, um everybody still talks about regulations about why they can't do something, and we already seen that the United States, maybe without regulations per se to say for the specific field, which you're not going to get, especially when it comes to they're pulling lawsuits to see if we can't figure out innovation, and they're coming with a starter mentality now in the United States, thanks to the Trump administration, and people like David Sachs and a lot of VCs and entrepreneurs that are in the administration. And so I'm very cautious when somebody says, "Hey, we just need a framework, or else we can't do it, or we won't do it because of a framework." And it sounds like a cop out, to me at this point, considering we already had those companies do it, and the reason why they didn't succeed and they're not doing it anymore is because they were insolvent and lost everybody's money. So you didn't need regulations to run a good business. You just needed to run a good business, and they would have still been around. And instead, we have um, what's the guy's name from Celsius? I forgot his name. I'm blanking.
Yeah, he just put him in, got him in jail. Fuck, what was his
Yeah,
name?
what was it? Was it 20 years, 15 years, 19 years, 12
40. I
years,
think
18 years?
it was 40, wasn't it?
No, no, no. It wasn't 40 years. No, that was
Okay.
SBF. SBF got something like 40. No, he got 20 something. I'm blanking on his name. It's so stupid. Anyway,
Yeah.
long story short is I have a lot of questions about that. But in really quick, everybody that's watching, I just want to just explain what Kyle was just talking about is mining is a math problem. It doesn't matter if you have a GPU that you play, that you game on at your house, or if you have a multi-million-dollar mining, farm in the middle of Texas that uses solar. You can run the same calculations. It's how much does electricity cost? How much hash rate do you have? How much Bitcoin can you mine? How much fees are you going to get? Transaction fees, and are you going to be in the black, or are you going to be in the red? It's a very, very simple calculation. So if your energy is X and you're making Y, you're either in the black or the red. And there's many different calculators online that you can just look at and just plug in some numbers. So if you see on eBay a mining rig, say some GPUs that somebody has laying around, they're trying to charge, you can just look at their hash rate. You could plug in the local cost for your energy, and you can see how much you'll make if you join a Bitcoin mining pool. And you can start mining Bitcoin. It's really not that hard. It's pretty simple. The reason why these people go to, say, waterfalls, to
Hmm.
geothermal, to solar, is because the energy, once either dig the geothermal well, if you will, or put up a turbine, or start harnessing in some what they have at these dams, and in waterfalls, is a lot of extra energy that just isn't used, because that thing's making energy all day long. And if it's not being used, it's just wasted energy. And sometimes they just do deals with people that set up a mining shop right next to that waterfall and say, "Hey, we're going to give you pennies per even less than that per kilowatt hour, because we just want to sell this and it's not wasted, and at least we're making something off of it." And they get dirt cheap electricity to mine Bitcoin. So that's why you see people doing these other things. Honestly, solar is one of the more expensive ways to mine, even though it's renewable.
Yeah. Um,
Speaking
it's
of that,
funny. You can,
did you talk about hive mining yet?
yeah. I've like one of the things the guy said too was, um, like if you're going to invest in a mining rig and you're going to put all this effort in, and you're not making like a ton of annualized returns. He was saying something like they make like 20 million annually. Uh, yeah, I had a feeling some guy would just barge in. Somebody's been like rocking this fucking thing too. Felt like an earthquake. Uh, but yeah, one of the things he said, Iden from Hive, was that if you're not going to invest, if you're going to invest a bunch of money and like put all this effort in, and you're not going to make like solid annualized returns, then just buy Bitcoin. Like there's no reason to be investing all this mining in it if you're just gonna like do it for the appreciation value of the Bitcoin. Um, which I thought was really interesting. He said a lot of miners out there are not uh like getting over that threshold. He said
Right.
like Hive, like what we're doing is like we're actually mining Bitcoin, so we're getting it cheaper. But there was, and this is something I need to re-listen to the interview, because there was something he said about how they have a buyback program or something like that, where um, over the summer, he said like they want to get back up to having over 20,000 Bitcoin holding, and he said they're going to buy it back at like 85K per Bitcoin, and he's something, this is not financial advice, but he said that right now their market cap is only like 400 or 500 million, and that all people are saying that they're going to reach like a billion by the end of the summer. So it looks like a very hot, solid investment. Hive, they are legit.
I think they're only traded on the Canadian market, right? Not the US market.
Yeah, I don't think they're available in the US. Um, but something I talked about with Miles from FV Bank was tokenizing assets, and how the tokenization of real estate, the tokenization of like Kraken just announced that they're going to tokenize Tesla shares and things like that, so you can now buy like OTC stocks um, on like exchanges, and so instead of buying one share of Tesla, you can buy fractions of it now, or whatever.
Robinhood does that. Great. Happy Kraken does it now too. That's good
Yeah.
Kraken.
But this idea of like tokenization everywhere again is just it's an interesting concept. Like what should everything be tokenized? What shouldn't be? Blah blah blah.
And just for everybody else to just kind of touch on what Kyle was saying again about what Hive was doing and being solvent and just buying your Bitcoin. And uh, they want to get over to 20,000 Bitcoin. What a lot of these miners do, because remember they have infrastructure, they have employees, they're running a business, and so they're mining this Bitcoin, and that Bitcoin is their revenue. They're not like they don't have other products. They're not selling smoothies or French fries as well as mining Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the product. So they sell their Bitcoin to further operations. And so if they're selling the Bitcoin, for $100,000 a piece, and their cost is $50,000 to get that Bitcoin, then they have $50,000 in profit. But what happens is sometimes the hash rate gets too high for their mining capacity, and their revenue will go down. Sometimes electricity will get too expensive because remember, Bitcoin does adjust its difficulty every so often, and it can get so difficult that even huge mining operations are disadvantaged, which does happen. The other way is that Bitcoin's price drops below a certain threshold for their business. For example, if you're mining Bitcoin, you're mining Bitcoin. You're not mining the dollar price of Bitcoin. So if you mine
Hmm.
one Bitcoin, it can be $110,000 or it can be $50,000. It still
Hmm.
takes you could take you the same amount of energy, the same amount of labor, the same amount of infrastructure, the same amount of employees to mine that $50,000 Bitcoin is 110. But now you're break even or even losing money, and so they continue to sell maybe Bitcoin reserves to keep operations going. And
Hmm.
that's why you see, and this is one big indicator. If you want to know if you're going to be in a bear market or where the bear market is, first of all, a number goes down. If you're waiting on to this point, this is when the bottom of the bear usually is when you hear different miners start turning off their mining operations. Because that's when they say, hey, it's not worth it. We're going to pause. And so you will hear places like even like Hive, you'll see Marathon. They'll say we're just shutting down half of our mining operations because it's just not worth it anymore. And so once you see, in my opinion, the one of the biggest indicators for the bottom of a bear is when you hear that. Then you just wait another 12 months and we'll start going up again.
Yeah, definitely something to watch out for when miners are no longer sustaining. Uh, the opposite of that is There used to be like the follow the monsoons in China because the hydraulic power through like some Chinese rivers. You'd see these pictures online of these guys with these like janky ass mining rigs out in like the rural areas of China in the jungle mining Bitcoin via hydraulic power that when the monsoons kicked in, they could have more power so that they could mine more and the Bitcoin price would go up.
Right. Right. I put in the chat. By the way, we have about 70 people on right now. So if anybody has any questions, we'll be happy to take those questions. It doesn't have to be what we're talking about right now. Anything you want. What's up, Robert? Just joined. And then we have, again, like I said, 45 or 50 on X. Feel free to ask any questions. But I want you to touch on, Kyle, really quick about that question from Toon I put in the chat. I'll read it really quick and then you can go because you were talking about this before we hopped on, and I want to
Hmm.
know if you have any opinions from talking to some of the people today. Toon says, question for you. Whenever we talk about quantum, we talk about hacks, but the thought just occurred to me: what about mining? Will quantum affect mining? Will we be will the halving be 10 to 1,000 times sooner than expected? Will the increase of supply affect the price of Bitcoin or other coins? Or are quantum and mining totally unrelated? I don't think so, but I've been wrong before. I'd love to hear your thoughts. All right, Tune. I have many thoughts on this, and we could get you straight. But Kyle, you go first.
Yeah, I asked Iden of Hive, like straight up directly, this question was like, what do you think about quantum? Is it something that um, is like a vulnerability to mining? Um, long story short, it's not something he that keeps him awake at night. It's not something that he's seeing in the immediate future as a like existential threat to his company or to his business model, right? So going back to that live stream we had with forgetting the guy's name, the quantum scientist from Portugal, um, he was basically kind of giving us the impression that Bitcoin mining, calculations would be almost become obsolete based off the ability for based off the abilities of quantum mathematics and quantum computing. But what I understood from Iden was that in order for quantum to affect Bitcoin mining, it's that you have to build a quantum system directly to solve Bitcoin mining. And so right now, quantum computing is created to solve very specific things, and it's created to solve only that very specific thing. Where if you wanted to do it for Bitcoin mining, you would have to build a quantum rig that would be specific for solving Bitcoin calculations and proof of work and blah blah blah. And Iden basically just said is like that's just not like sustainable. It's not like economic at this point. Um, the math might be there, like there might be some math to do it, but like physically the hardware, and this is not something that he directly told me. This is kind of the impression I took away from what he told me was that the hardware just isn't there. He talked a lot about how there is math that backs a lot of this up. There's a couple like algorithms he name dropped. He was even trying to show me one on his phone, but we couldn't get the Wi-Fi in the place to work in
The
time. And then
Wi-Fi
he
is
had
working
eight.
amazing, but right now, considering that you're in a
Yeah,
conference with
yeah.
like
But then
10,000 people.
he was going to go give a panel talk, and so before we were able to get away, we weren't able to get it on working on his phone to search it. But it was something like Shor's law, I think was the name of it. Um,
First algorithm.
yeah, Shor's algorithm, um, which is a quantum algorithm for like googling it here for finding the prime factors of an integer. I don't know. Anyways, he said, but he basically told me there's a lot of math that backs up the fact that even quantum isn't going to be like a threat to Bitcoin computations and Bitcoin mining. Um, and so there is a future where this could be a threat and it could be a problem, but I don't think it's as big as a problem as I walked away from the conversation with the quantum guy. Getting the response from Iden, he's basically like, what you think I should be worried about this right now? Like he's like, what? No, we're worried about getting a bunch. Like we're making 20. This is what he said. He's like, we're making $20 million annual per employee. That's what we're focused on. We're making money. It's like, all
Wow,
right,
20 million per employee.
yeah, per employee. And then I was like,
If that
and
just if we
they run a
juxtapose that to
lean and
DCN,
mean. They
I
run a
think we're what,
lean and mean
$500
team.
per employee here a year.
Yeah, we need to start quantum mining and crypto mining
Yeah, we got to start
with
we got to do
DCN.
something. $500
Um,
a year per employee here. Um,
yeah,
Actually, per volunteer for the most part. That's what
well,
employee.
helps me get press passes and interview fun
Yeah,
people.
yeah. I got a press pass too, everybody, but I was just too lazy to go. I've been too many, and I'm over them. So let me tackle that really quick. The quantum thing is first. Let me just reply to you, and then I'm gonna reply to Toon's question. Is well, I'm gonna reply to the Hive guy. Um, the algorithms are already written for Bitcoin hacking or dealing with these. They're already there. But the theory is there's a hardware problem, as you said, and so the hardware isn't there to handle these algorithms that are already laid out, these theories. And so once the hardware gets there, these theories then can get tested, and then they can start going in to attack different things like Shaw 256 or whatever that they're going to try to attack. And that's why David said one of the best things I've ever heard was right now it's harvest then hack. So they're taking all of the data that they want to hack in the future. It's Satoshi Wallet. It's the Department of Defense. It's your communication networks to nuclear submarines, and they're just putting them away on a desktop folder. Seriously, probably just takes up 1 megabyte of data, all of it, and and they're just waiting until the hardware is there. But Microsoft in their Majorana chip said that they can now scale with that chip by linking multiple chips together. And now, again, this is still theory, but they made a chip that they said can scale up to a million qubits. And now that's not logical qubits; that's just a million qubits. And
Hmm.
and Google has said that they are finding out how to correct the errors of these quantum computers and chips, meaning that it used to be if you have 1,000 qubits, you're only going to get like one or two, maybe three, four, five logical qubits, which is the bits that are doing the work. And they're saying
Hmm.
now we're getting up to like 20 to 30 per 1,000 qubits, which is substantial, and they're just taking out the errors that are happening. So I don't. I just definitely don't agree on with Hive, considering that we have places like Google, Apple, obviously the government, and this was just reported on today, are actually making steps to be quantum resistant. Bitcoin needs to do that ASAP. It might be a year
Yeah.
or 2 or 4 years, but I don't want to be at the point where it's like, oh no, what do we do now? And Andreas Antonopoulos said something that's I think really interesting. Um, it's kind of like the Enigma code. When the Enigma code happened, it was like, hey, we have this amazing technology that can break the codes of the Germans, but we can't let them know that we have it. So if we're gonna, attack, if we're gonna thwart some kind of attack, we have to capture a German that knew about the attack and say that we got the information from him, not from the Enigma code. And so if one person does have it, they're probably gonna use it more like Enigma until it's time that everybody has it. He said the problem is when we go past the enigma aspect of it, where one or two nation states have it, and it's just this like very niche weapon. To now we have Google and Amazon and some big companies and nation states can all have this thing. Now we're into the danger territory, not just when the one person has it. So that is not what I wanted to say. I wanted to talk about Tunes thing, but do you have any comments on that before I just ramble forever?
Um, Nothing like directly. I think like when I was speaking with Aiden, there was just a lot of math that he was throwing out about hash rates and stuff like this that just they seem to have the math figured out on their end, and that again, that quantum is just not a threat. Again, it seems like it might be something in the future that they're looking at and that could affect them, but it didn't. He basically said he's not. It's not a problem. It's not something that's keeping him up. But at the same time, there is a booth here for a project that says, I've yet to go up and talk to them, and I want to, but it says, first quantum resistant like Bitcoin project. And so that's somebody that I want to go up and be like, tell me more, because this is
Hey,
something I
get them on.
understand
Let's
is a
do it
major.
live.
Yeah, I have to go up there. The place opened at 9. I had my first interview at 11, and it's 2 o'clock. I've done two, and now this. My plan is to go speak with them at least by this afternoon, hopefully. If not, then
Cool, cool,
tomorrow morning.
cool. Last thing I
JD
want to say.
Vance tomorrow
Oh
morning
yeah,
too.
tomorrow's JD Vance at 9 a.m. But really quick, last thing I want to say about Tune, to Tune and answer his question. He's like, how will quantum affect mining? Will having be 10 to 1,000 times sooner than expected? No. Do I think that quantum could help the mining aspect as of to find the nonce? Is it the
Hmm.
nonce, or what do they have to find? Anyway, I think the nonce is what's added into it. I keep forgetting. It's been years since I read the book. Anyway, um the it won't that's not how it works, because Bitcoin always adjusts its difficulty. So right when you have a more hash rate, or Bitmain comes out with new GPUs, or they find that you're that the that Bitcoin is being mined not in 10-minute blocks or the same time and being consistent, it's just going to adjust, and it's going to adjust in a way that it's not going to be sooner or later. Um you might be able to get a couple blocks and a couple Bitcoins sooner than expected. You might be able to, but as soon as the Bitcoin network understands what's going on, it'll adjust, and you're back to 10-minute blocks on average. 10-minute blocks.
Yeah, still a problem. The the latency. Um, like the
Oh yeah,
Lightning like
hundred
Lightning
percent.
Network is still. I think I shared this thread. There's a great thread by Eric Wall, um, of Taproots Wizards and a couple other projects. He put out a great thread. I think it was yesterday, and I shared it in Telegram with us, with our crew. Um, of basically just like what is the vibe right now in of the Bitcoin teams and people. And yeah, like one of the things in his thread was just like we need to be able to build something that people will use, because right now nobody wants to send money when there's a fucking 30-minute latency effect, and then if you want to use the Lightning Network, it's a piece of shit. So like for all this, yeah, that was like his thread is great because it just doesn't hold back. It's like we need to get fucking serious and realize, like, yeah, sure, we've gone far, but we are nowhere near making an international global payment system. Like this doesn't work. Um, but at the same time, I was speaking with again, Miles from FV Bank, and I said, he said, look, like at our bank, when you open up an account, you get a TRC, a Tron wallet address. You get an ERC20 wallet address. We produce that for you. So imagine if every bank were to do that, and then you can be sending stable coins or to banks.
Okay,
Blah
wait,
blah
wait, wait, wait,
blah.
wait, 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 wait. Stop. Hold up. So you get that when you open a bank. Who controls the keys?
I don't know. It's an
So if
interesting
the bank
question. I had
makes
not.
it and they say, "Here's your wallet address," but they have the keys, like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But the point I want was am going to try and make based on that conversation was I asked him like, so what is your view on the staying power of Ethereum? And he said, look, like Ethereum to me is just something that is going to be like a top 10 instrument for the next 50 years, next 100 years. It's going to be as ubiquitous as, Microsoft or Apple.
Yeah.
And and to me that was just like really great to hear because for all this stuff, like, and Patrick has written some op-eds on Daily Crypto News about this, for all the hoopla around the price of Ethereum, and we don't have 10K Ethereum yet, blah 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 blah. It's no, the Ethereum Foundation is actually kind of interested in making something that fucking works and that people want to use. And if gas is if it costs $20 to send something that is worth $20, that's not something people want to use, right? And so the idea is to build something that people want to use, and that means they'll use it when gas is low, improve the ability for these systems to like transact and pass money through and transact value at a cheap rate. That's what people want. People don't want to spend money to send money. Um, Anyways, so like it was nice to hear, because it's good to hear people who are in that position, like CEO of FV Bank, saying Ethereum is here to stay. Like it's not going anywhere. Um, for as much as people want to rag on it.
Right, right. Okay, last thing. I think we didn't have any listener questions, even though there are like, 80 people watching. But if you guys want to ask a question, please go ahead. And there's only one question because they're going to be here. They're always here, sir. You know who they are.
Who?
The XRP army.
Oh
They're
wow.
there.
What a
There's always one of them. They're here. What are your thoughts on XRP? They're doing so much, and the price is going nowhere. And we can end on that because look, if you ask a question, we're going to answer it. The army is
Ripple doesn't have
everywhere.
product market fit, which is why they tried to buy Circle.
Ooh, hot take.
They like Ripple's been involved in all the White House summits. They've been talking to all the right people, but if you see them trying to buy the biggest stablecoin, what I see that as is they know their product sucks and they want to get a good product, and they want
Wow.
something. And like I thought their offer was fucking laughable. The Bloomberg report said they offered like $5 billion.
Yeah.
Circle probably makes $1 billion a year just on interest from holding treasury bonds and whatever they need to just back it 1 to 1,
Yeah.
right? So why would that be a fair offer to be like they would make this back in fucking 5 years? Why lowball this? And it's because Ripple, again,
They
they
make
don't
they
have
make
product market fit.
2.5 billion, by the way.
Yeah, so they'll make that back in 2 years, right? And Ripple thinks that's a
Right.
fair offer. Like to me, it just shows you that Ripple is fading, and the only thing that's keeping them around is they were the first company to be sued. So the SEC was their punch. They were in the headlines because they were the SEC's punching bag, right? And now they've gone through that. They've come out the other end, but they don't have a product that people want to use. Why would if I'm a big bank, right? I was at my parents' house this weekend reading the Wall Street Journal. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal that said it was like 3 or 4 of the major banks in the United States are now teaming together to think about making a stable coin to challenge Circle. Ripple
Yeah.
has RULSD or whatever, their own stable coin. Why doesn't JP Morgan just go to Ripple and say, hey, you already have a stable coin. Can we run it on your rails? Like, why can't we do this? It's because nobody wants that. Nobody wants to use a stable coin that's run by this private entity. They would, if it's going to be private, they would want to have it their own themselves. Why would JP Morgan? They're a fucking huge bank. Why would they cede that power to someone else?
Right.
Right. So
Right.
again,
That's a
it's
very good
just
point.
to me, it's they're just stuck in this like between a rock and a hard place, basically, right? Where they don't have product market fit. They've gotten all this attention, and people think that they somehow have product market fit because they've been in the news and stuff. There's all these investors waiting, but it's a big nothing burger, in my opinion. It's going to be, like a product that in 10 years we'll just go, oh wow, wow, they were beat up by the SEC and then they disappeared. Like I don't see any staying power with Ripple, unfortunately.
That's a okay. So that's a very good point. So the largest banks in the world right now, we have J.P. Morgan is about 740 billion. Bank of America by market cap,
Hmm.
not assets under management. And so it's good. And the number 10 is Commonwealth Wealth Bank of Australia is about 188 billion. And so we're talking about tether prices, tether market cap right now when we're talking about the lowest bank, and USDC in Circle's market cap for their stablecoin is around 60 billion. So we're talking about the stablecoin market with the two largest, which is Tether and um, Circle's USDC, is now if you put them together, they are the around the sixth, seventh, or eighth biggest bank if you those were combined, or Tether itself being probably the 12th or 13th, or you have USDC and Circle. And so what Coinbase and Circle did, and they're smart, they're super smart, is they teamed up early and they said, look, Coinbase has the regulatory front facing app and blah blah, and they're like, we're gonna get regulated, we're gonna do this, we're gonna start shaking hands and kissing babies, and but we also need a stable coin. And what they're going to do is they're going to pivot because they do have a product and they do have a market, and they are going to use Circle and USDC to be that new neo bank, not decentralized, but some sort of kind of like pro crypto centralized banking sort of organization, and they already have scale. And we're not even talking about the Coinbase market cap itself. So between both of those, the USDC market cap, the stablecoin, and Coinbase, they are now breaking into a major bank in the world. You look at you look at Ripple and XRP, they don't have that. They're trying to sell some kind of I guess software or firmware that's going to say that we can be the rails of your bank to make it faster, more efficient. Which, to be perfectly honest, we've already heard reports that Bank of America use them and other banks use them, and they are pennies on the dollar of what they were paying before using ACH and other Fed wire and blah 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 and all this other stuff that people have been using. So they actually do have a product. So, but they see that they may not be competitive going forward. That they maybe hit a plateau. And your point, in my opinion, is very good. Is that if you're the biggest bank in the world and you're J.P. Morgan and you have almost $1 trillion of market cap, why the hell am I going to use your shit if I could just make my own stable coin and tokenize
Yeah,
my assets? Like, there's no reason
exactly.
for me to even mess with you and pay you a percentage. I'm going to make my thing and tokenize my assets and make JP Morgan USD, JMUSD, or Morgan dollar, or whatever it is. That's exactly
Hmm.
what you would do. And so that's the
JP
first thing.
Morgan already has their own private uh,
Yes. Yeah.
blockchain,
Yep.
right? They run
Yep.
it on Polygon. It's a
Yep.
Polygon
And they've
chain,
been doing it forever.
right?
And,
So,
people
yeah,
don't know that. The last thing I would say
yeah.
to the person that asked the question about XRP, by the way, and this is what really pisses me off about the crypto space. This guy, and I want to read it again because he's like, "What are your thoughts on XRP, Investor Ryan? They're doing so much, but the price isn't going nowhere, guys. Guys, the price is up 336% year to date. What the hell? What the hell do you want out of something? To go up 300x and then you're like, oh, I can't believe it's not doing anything. This time last year, you were at 51 cents. And for about
Hmm.
4 years straight during the SEC lawsuit, you were at 25 cents. So we called it a stable coin. And now you're like, oh, it went up 336%. You're at $2.33 right now. And you're like, well, it's not doing anything. Like, what do you like
Yeah,
that kind of mentality in the crypto space just really pisses me off because you just don't, it just pisses me off because you're a complete fucking idiot. like that's all I can say is like you're an idiot. You either bought the top and you didn't look at the history, or you think that 300% gains in a year is small potatoes, and you because you're looking at what Fartcoin or some bullshit. Like just shut the hell up. Your coin is doing fine. They're doing fine. They're making the right connections, but they do have an issue when they're going to be um, competing with somebody that already, I think, in my opinion, has an infrastructure like Coinbase and USDC in that partnership. And Ripple, there's no way there's no way that they're going to sell to you and not Coinbase first. Even if you made
hmm,
them a good offer of 20 billion or 50 billion, they're going to go because I think Coinbase has preferred standing with them. They're going to go to them and say, "Hey, they offered 50. You want a match?" And
Yeah.
they get first choice, man.
Hmm. Exactly.
Didn't mean to
All
call
right.
anybody. It didn't made me to call anybody fucking idiots.
Ah, no. Do your own research.
But
It's always the
come
solution.
on. If you're last thing I want to say, and I'm going to look straight into the camera. If your token, your investment, your Nvidia stock, your Dogecoin, your Bitcoin, or anything has went up 300% this year, and you say it's not doing anything, you have issues. You have
Hmm.
issues, and you should take some profit. You should absolutely
Take
take
some
some
profit.
profit.
Yeah, smart.
Not financial advice, but you should take some profit. All right, Kyle.
Yeah.
This is gonna be a
All
nice
right.
little write up for tomorrow.
But we want to do the same thing tomorrow, same time.
Yeah, if you have some good interviews, take those interviews over to us. We can throw those into the DCN podcast. How long are they, by the way?
Each one was about 30 minutes. I have to go check the audio because it's just so loud in that press room, man.
Uh,
Like, I can clip a little mic on them, but
so I think what we could
I
do.
just I don't know if they're like um and for one of them I didn't mic myself, so the questions won't be audible.
That's totally
Um
fine. What we'll do is we'll upload them, we'll transcribe them, and we'll turn them into articles.
exactly. Yeah. My thought, that's kind of what I told each person. I said, don't worry too much. What we'll do is we'll listen later, we'll transcribe it and we'll figure it out. It's a little bit of a process, but it's with AI and everything now, it's a little bit easier. I used to have to
Absolutely, absolutely.
transcribe interviews like gosh, when I did my documentary back in like with the documentary back in like 2010, I was transcribing by hand in fucking Spanish and Catalan.
Oh,
Like,
you know what? I
dude,
forgot about Patrick's interviews up in Toronto. That we should transcribe those and put those up in the articles.
yeah, he messaged me about that. But yeah, we can. I was gonna follow up with you about
Hey
that.
guys, why are you ignoring me, bro? Hey, I'm sorry, Patrick.
Well, it's just some of those people probably wonder where they are. But anyways, yeah, we'll get them
well,
out. We'll
well,
get them for the
unless they're
people.
paying money, they don't get promised the spot. But whatever.
Yeah, exactly. All right,
Anyway,
all
all
right.
right, sounds good.
We'll talk soon. Goodbye, everybody.
Happy hodling, everybody.